you stayed regulated and then you co-regulated. So the only way a dysregulated child can get back on course, they have to have, hopefully, a parent who can regulate with them, because then you asked her questions so she could get out of here back into her prefrontal cortex. Beautiful.
Interesting. Welcome back to Raising Men. Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield is a national speaker, author, and licensed professional counselor with over 30 years of experience helping men become more connected and intentional fathers. She's the founder of the ABBA Project, a forum for dads of daughters in their teens and 20s, and the host of the Dad Whisperer podcast. Alongside her husband, Dr. Ken Canfield, she co-chairs the Father-Daughter Initiative at the National Center for Fathering. Her best-selling books, Dad, Here's What I Really Need From You, and Let's Talk, have equipped thousands of men to bridge the emotional gap with their daughters, and in the process, heal their own wounds. Welcome to Raising Men, Dr. Canfield.
I'm so glad to be here. And you can call me Michelle. Hey.
Okay, I will call you. You know what? You worked hard for that title. So I'll call you Dr. Michelle. How's that?
Do that.
I know how much work that is. So, Dr. Michelle, this is a real treat. We were talking about the podcast is about raising men, but the focus of your work has always been about daughters. I'd love to understand what is similar and dissimilar about that. So, what first opened your eyes to the unique dynamic between dads and daughters, and how did you get into this?
Well, I've been mentoring and kind of coaching young women and teenagers since I was 19. I'm now mid-60s, so do the math. That's a long time, over 45 years, which simply means I'm old. I mean, I once heard Oprah Winfrey say, the best invention of the 20th century, guess what? Hair color.
You know what? I can see that. I
I'd look much older if I went gray. But anyways, I digress. So I've invested in teenage and young adult women for a long time in different roles. And then when I became a professional counselor in my late 30s, really where I've dialed in is with women, young women, teenage women, and I'm the oldest of 4 daughters. So I've really a lot of estrogen, a lot of being on my planet of Venus. And so when I was 49, I began to realize that so many of my counseling clients, if you trace back what their issues were or are, even currently, it's often a father void where dad missed filling their love tank or connecting with their heart, or a dad wound where there had been injury. And so whether it's emotional, sexual, spiritual, even spiritual abuse, those kinds of things. And so one day I was actually reading my Bible at Christmas time and read about this guy named John the Baptist who was going to turn the hearts, not the heads of fathers to their daughter. And the light bulb went on. I went, I think a lot of men don't know how to turn a heart. And men are really good at turning their head, which I say, men, we need your mind. You help us fill out FAFSAs for college or specs on a car to get the best one and read a map. And I know that's a little gender stereotypical, but still I'm saying by and large, I want to affirm men always and say, you bring gifts to the world that we as women need. And yet this whole idea of turning a heart is something that a lot of men I've coached and counseled and been with at conferences, and I write to them. They'll say, yeah, that's not quite my strong suit. I don't even know what that means. And so in January of 10, after kind of that aha moment about the heart turning, I emailed 11 dads whose daughters at the time were my counseling clients in their teens or 20s and asked these men, many of them I'd never met, how would you like to join me once a month for 6 months to see if there's a change in you, your daughter, or your relationship? And guess what, Sean?
I'll bet they all said, sign me up.
10 of the 11 said yes. We ended up going a year.
Wow.
And I never had any curriculum. I didn't have any idea of where I was going. But every month I just wrote it down. I know this sounds like promo, but really I'm just saying, Dad, this is a resource for you. I put all of that into this book and I wrote it in Martian, right? I flew to your planet. They're all really short chapters. They're like 2 pages, that's a whole chapter. I've had men
That's
go,
perfect.
I read 2 chapters last night. And I'm like, rock on. I wrote it with that in mind so men could feel like they accomplished something. But really, I did that for 10 years in Portland before moving now to Arkansas. But I continued to do Dad Daughter Friday blogs. I've done that since 14. Wrote a second book. I speak at men's conferences. I coach men. So I'm passionate like you are about equipping men to lead.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I think what do you see as the similarities or differences between how dads need to show up for their daughters and how dads should be showing up for their sons?
Much of it is obviously the same. You're the same man
Sure.
with your same history, with your same triggers, with your same assets and liabilities, right? Like you're all still the same you. So in many ways, showing up for your kids means showing up for your kids. Being
Yeah.
present is the present. It's the gift, right? But at the same time, and you have a daughter and a son, and you and I were even talking before this recording, you're like, it's different.
Yeah.
Every man, I can't think of one I've ever talked to who has said something other than it's different.
Yeah.
And what I love is that many men say it's almost like a different portal to my heart,
Mhm.
sort of activated or opened up with a daughter. It's just different. And so that's where, again, I want to equip men with different skill sets to be more dialed in at a heart level, like I said about heart turns, to their daughter's needs. Because think of it, men, you either were married to a daughter, you're going to get married to a daughter, you were married and aren't married anymore to a daughter, and maybe you still have issues with that, baby mama, because
Sure.
you still are interacting with her and she's living out of her father wounds. In fact, I've asked at men's conferences recently, I've asked this with my ABBA Project Dads group, give me a show of hands. How many of you would say the woman you're married to, were married to, either way, has dad issues?
Mm.
Most of the time, almost every hand goes up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, men, why do you not want to put time, investment, energy into learning how to raise your daughter and your son, who will be relating to women throughout his life? Why not learn a skill set as a dad of a daughter that will benefit you with all your relationships? Because being more soft, more tender, more emotive, better listener, that will make you a better man by what you learn in pursuing your daughter's heart, but it extends to all your relationships.
Yeah, the metaphor that that occurred to me at one point in time about this, and I'd love to get your feedback about this, is, when I grew up, it felt like masculinity was about strength and it was about projecting strength. And it was almost like we view ourselves as a castle. And masculinity was about how thick the walls are and how tall the walls are and how impenetrable the walls are. And so essentially you're bragging about how no army can break into this castle. But almost by definition, in order to be that strong, the castle walls have to be very, very small. And they only can encompass this tiny little building of your castle. And wow, that's great. You have these impenetrable walls surrounding this tiny little castle that really can't do much. And nowadays, I think our eyes are opened up to the fact that it's not about how thick the walls are. It's about how big the enclosure is. What you really want is the walls to cover as much space as possible so you can have villages in there that thrive. And that means by necessity that you're going to look at the way to be a man differently. The walls have to be smaller. They have to encompass more area. They have to be farther out. They have to have more fertile land in there. What do you think about that metaphor?
It's interesting when you first started talking about that, Sean, the thought that came to me, which I don't think necessarily lines up with your metaphor, but I was thinking about I think every person has walls, but I
Yeah.
liked how you're saying maybe it's more communal. But
Mm.
I think even individually, we all put up walls when we don't feel safe. And so I was thinking more like individually, every man, what do
Yeah.
his walls look like? And if he has a drawbridge from his heart to his daughter's heart,
Mm.
she'll know she can approach you at any time and your drawbridge will go down. And that's what I was thinking when you were giving that metaphor.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's right. One of the things that you've written about that really resonated with me is that men often freeze rather than fail. And so I'm wondering, how do you find that men are best able to, move for that? Like you have your daughter come up to you and she's freaking out, or she's seeking connection, and you don't know the best way to bridge that, and so you freeze. How do you think about that? How do you get around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me first say the phrase that I've often said to men. I've written about it, talked about it, just so I can take what you just said and put it in my words, which is from my now almost 16 years of traveling from my planet of Venus to your planet of Mars. So I'm bilingual. I speak Venusian, my native tongue, and a bit of Martian.
Sure.
Here's one of my observations of Mars and Martians is that often men would rather do nothing than do it wrong.
Yeah.
And you men are smart enough to know when you're making it worse. A daughter's having a meltdown, you're trying to help, she gets more angry, more upset, more emotional, and you're smart enough to go, you know what, I'm going to back up, back off, and let mom go in. She's a girl, she'll do better.
Mhm.
No. That's what I want to talk about, the freeze here in a minute. But so
Yeah, because the signal that you're sending to her is, I'm not here for you for that.
Totally. You're
Yeah.
too much. When you can calm yourself down, then we can have a valid conversation, or then I'm approachable. So
Right.
that's the drawbridge, if you will, going back up, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
figure it out, then I'll be here. But so what I want to say to you, men, is again, men would rather do nothing than do it wrong. But you know what? You're smart enough to know that doing nothing actually is doing it wrong. So
Yeah.
I found a lot of men that I've coached, dads will say, I know I'm not doing it right, but I have no idea what to do different. And so that's the piece that I say, I want to help you do it right because I know that's what you want. And think about all the action figures that you loved when you were little. Who was your favorite, Sean?
Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Okay, there you go. Would you have liked Snake Eyes if he didn't take action?
No, in fact, Snake Eyes didn't even talk.
Okay, but he moved. He took action. He
that's
got
right.
it done. So if you as a dad want to be a hero to your daughter, to your son, you have to take action. And I think this bridges over to the freeze response, which is actually something in our nervous system, where this is the middle part of our brain where we have emotion.
Mhm.
And when we get really triggered is the word.
Mhm.
Pull the trigger. There's a loaded gun.
Yeah.
When we get triggered emotionally, we flood, it's called, this prefrontal cortex, which is where we think and have good reasoning and judgment and make good decisions.
Yeah.
We go offline. And so a lot of us, myself included, anger's been one I've dealt with a lot in my life. It's kind of a go-to for me. But that anger response, often then, men, you're flooded. And it may not look like you're in freeze, that you're more in fight.
Mhm.
Or flight is the leave. Freeze is you just don't know what to do or say. And then fawn is the last one, which is more like you implode and just give in,
Right.
a surrendered posture. So on the freeze, that might be some of the men go, I don't actually freeze, I go into fight.
Sure.
Or some of the men go, I go into flight, I'm just out of there. I'm not even going to fight anymore because it's not worth it, I'm out. So that's your own history informing your response, men.
Yeah.
That's your own stuff. So again, to be a proactive dad is where you're, first of all, mindful that that's what's happening inside of you. I often say, ask yourself 0 to 10, what number are you right now? Be honest about your own activated nervous system.
Yeah.
And so if you're stuck at an 8, 9, 10, it's always old stuff. It's always your own history, even though it seems like it's your daughter or your son that pushed the button. Because think about it when you're driving a car. If you have a red light come on the dashboard, you could get out a hammer and go, I hate red lights. I'm bashing
I'm going to destroy the red light. Yeah.
destroy the red light, or I'm going to get out of the car and unplug the wiring because I don't like being signaled.
Yeah.
But wisdom says you lift up the car, the hood of the car, you look inside at the wiring to say what's going on
Right.
that needs attention.
What is the signal trying to tell me?
It's the same with your kids. So
Yeah.
it's legitimate if you have a freeze response. I would guess you probably learned that in your childhood. And yet being mindful of that is a first place to start. Number two, I've got some tricks up my sleeve how to help a body calm down. Do you want to hear
Mhm.
those? It'll help you
Yes.
get out of freeze. Okay. Any of you remember? I'm going to ask you, Sean. Do you remember when you were a kid? Did you ever do going on a bear hunt where you'd tap on your legs? Going on a bear hunt, going on a bear hunt. I'm not afraid. Did you ever do that?
Once or twice, but yeah, it wasn't a central thing.
Okay, but okay, so think about it. It says, I'm not afraid because I got my gun, meaning I've got something to self protect.
Right.
And then it says, can't go under it, can't go over it, can't go around it, gotta go through it.
Mm.
Such wisdom in that childhood
Mhm.
quip. So, anyway, with this, what you can do to calm yourself when you're like freaking out, you're like, I've told you 50 million times not to put your shoes in the doorway. I just got home. It was a stressful day. I walk in and I tripped. And you as a dad are like, how many times am I not going to be heard in this house?
Yeah.
And you overcompensate, right, by maybe getting angry.
Yeah.
When if you trace that, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not my best right now. Yeah, I'm at a 9. Okay. You could do the going online hunt. You can tap on it's called bilateral stimulation like we do in REM sleep. It's back and forth, right, left. Our
Sure.
eyes go
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
To calm ourselves, go for a walk. Before you blow, you gotta go, get yourself grounded.
Yeah.
You can do this is maybe sounds maybe feminized, but it isn't. It's a skill. It's a ladybug. Breathe in, blow out. You gotta calm yourself and get the oxygen mask on you first so
Uh-huh.
that you can be the dad you wanna be to your kids.
Yeah. The metaphor that I like to use for that is, we have two different brains in us, right? You talked about that, the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system.
Yep,
And so the limbic system is like your Conan the Barbarian brain. And you need that to fight the
yep,
saber-tooth tiger or, get out of the way of the oncoming car. And it's the place where the emotional signals are the meaning, right? The fear that happens when you see the car coming, you don't have time to inspect, oh, what is this fear trying to tell me about my deeper sense of being or whatever it is. It is, oh my gosh, there's an oncoming car. I have to grab my kid and jump out of the way. And then the prefrontal cortex is like your Sherlock Holmes brain. And in our modern world, the vast majority of the time, you'll get better results and have a better time and have a better life if you stay in Sherlock Holmes brain. But everything wants to drop you into that Conan the Barbarian brain. Everything.
yep.
And so the going on a bear hunt thing is a way when you recognize, oh, this is I'm dropping myself into Conan brain now. I need to get out of that. And that's a good technique to get you back into Sherlock Holmes brain. The fact is that I literally have never in my entire life, I can't think of a single time where I acted out of Conan the Barbarian brain and that was the right thing to do. I can't think of a
Exactly.
single time. And maybe there are some where, I was reacting to something in the road or something like that with my car and
Yep.
I don't have visibility into it, but certainly in interpersonal relationships, Conan the Barbarian brain makes things worse.
Absolutely. You won't regret waiting to respond till after your midbrain, that limbic system has cooled down.
Yeah.
So think about when your kid was 3, you give them a 3-minute timeout.
Yeah.
They're 5, you give them a 5-minute timeout. If
Yeah.
you're 45, you need a
You
45
need
minute
you need a 45
timeout
minute timeout.
for
Yeah.
that Conan the Barbarian brain to calm down.
Yeah.
And anything you can do with right left hemisphere movement, go for a walk, pace in the room, tap your legs, bringing that nervous system back into somewhat of an equilibrium, you will be the dad you want to be where you are more regulated because you all know this, but more is caught than what? Taught. So they're watching you. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes it can be a bit of a mixed message when a dad is saying to his kids, calm down, stop being angry, stop fighting, but yet you aren't
Yeah, you're
You're
yelling at them, "Calm down!"
Yeah, you're not giving the same directives to yourself. So,
Right.
just a reminder here, okay, here's some practical ways that you can calm yourself so that you do speak in love and do speak in the way that aligns with the core of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and then we're not taught these techniques to get ourselves out of Conan brain. And in fact, when I was young, it was almost like it was virtuous to be in Conan brain because, again, that was being strong, that was being a man. And I think what we're learning now is that no, what's virtuous is to recognize the signals that are coming out of Conan brain and to incorporate them into and apply your values to them and then act intentionally about that.
Yeah,
And do the Sherlock Holmes thing as opposed to what, just acting as if the signal was the meaning.
exactly. Another way to think about it is in this body of work called dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. Maybe some of you've heard of it, but they have two circles that overlap,
Mhm.
and the left circle is the emotional brain, and the right side is the rational brain. But where they overlap, they call it wise mind. So
Mm.
it's more of a wisdom stance where you're your best self when you incorporate both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that's right. I can
And
see how that's
sometimes
right.
what we have to remember, where I talked about if you hit an 8, 9, or 10, it's
Yeah.
your old stuff, meaning what just happened flips the switch on that's on the wall, but it's hardwired behind the wall long before that moment.
Mhm.
So when we hit a big number and it seems like they're not listening to me, they never put their shoes away, or I've told them to stop fighting, or I asked them 10 times to do that chore. Like, how many more times can I want to be a great dad. I want to train my kids to be responsible and right, do their chores and get along. And so what's getting activated in you, I would guess what might, like, if you trace that back, where does that tie to my family of origin? Was I heard in my home? Did my voice matter? And I get that this may be getting in the deep end of the pond. Like, how do you look at your inner world? Well, I coach dads around the country.
Yeah.
I'll walk with you if you want. Like, helping men understand their inner world, where their emotions are coming from, where their responses are, is so fun for me because I watch men becoming the man, the dad, the husband, the manager he wants to be when he
Yeah.
understands himself more.
Yeah, there's a real feedback mechanism at work there, isn't there? So, as you improve one aspect of your life, that goes to improving other aspects of your life. And so, you're going to improve your relationship with your daughter or your son, and that's going to help you be a better man at work. And that's going to help you be a better partner to your wife or your spouse or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's a virtuous cycle there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, back to what you'd asked about what's different about raising a daughter than a son
Yeah.
is think about daughters. I mean, even the research shows like that women have 11% more neurons in their brain attached to hearing.
Mm.
And so sometimes men are like, where'd you get that out of that? To a wife, a spouse, a partner, or a daughter. And we're over here going, how could you miss it? It was
Yeah.
so obvious. And it's just missing each other. And so it has a lot to do with genetic wiring. And so if you as a dad can understand your daughter more, that's why I've been doing now for 9 years podcasting and radio and writing to dad since 2014, going, okay, I'm going to try to take what I know on my planet and help you know what maybe no one's told you.
Yeah.
And so, because of that whole language thing, again, Lou Ann Brizendine wrote a book called The Female Brain. There's research on what women are like different than men, right? And we tend to pick up on cues and facial gestures different than men. We're like, I don't know that you're listening if I can't see your face. And men are like, I don't want to see your face. It's shoulder to shoulder orientation is how men often feel more comfortable. And again, gross generalization. But when
Yeah.
a daughter is reading your face and saying, I don't know what you really are saying or that you love me or you mean it if I can't see your eyes.
Yeah.
And so being mindful of that, you're developing a new skill set because your daughter needs your face. She needs to know not just what you think, but what you think of her. She's internalizing the messages that she reads on your face that you may not even know you're communicating. So this portal to your daughter from your heart to hers is also going to require a lot more listening by and large than with your sons. She needs you to hear her because on Venus we figure things out by talking. Sometimes we're like, and men, there's the book, the one where men are from Mars, women are from Venus, where
That's right. Yeah.
John Gray says men go into their cave
Mhm.
and they'll think and come out when they're ready. Don't go after them. And then they'll tell you what they think or what they learned or what they want to do. I'm telling you, for the most part, when we figure it out by talking. So men sometimes, as a dad, you may say, I can't even track with you. I don't even know what you just said.
Right.
If you tell me what you want, then I'll do it.
Yeah, that's
And
right. Just give me the instructions and I'll go.
yeah, and we're over
Yeah.
here going, I don't know, or I would have told you.
That's right.
But we
Yeah.
figure it out by talking. So we call that expanding your window of tolerance.
Mhm.
That sometimes men, you may say, my ears are bleeding. There's so many words. Because again, in that female brain book, she says, but men speak 7,000 words a day. Women speak 20,000, almost 3 to 1.
3 times. Wow.
And so women are going, I don't know, but I'm talking. Even introverts have their own way of communicating. So
Yeah.
they're still talking. And so for dad, you to expand your capacity to listen, 2 ears, 1 mouth, all these skills that your daughter needs that'll make you a better man, even to your son.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience about that this very morning. I was this morning. I was very rushed. We got up. The whole family got up a little bit late, and we had some early morning things to have to do. And my daughter started screaming at my wife, and my wife said to her, "I don't want to be screamed at," and she left the room. And I was getting ready, and that kind of set my daughter off. At first she was defiant, and then she got very upset because
And she's 3 years old.
she's 3 years old. Yeah, yeah. And then she started saying, "Nobody loves me, nobody loves me, nobody loves me."
Wow.
And I went over to her and I kneeled down and I looked her in the eye, and we call her Mo. That's her nickname.
Mm.
And I said, "Mo," I said, "I see how upset you are, and it seems that you're upset that mommy walked away from you. Is that right?" She says, "Yes." And I said, "Do you understand why that happened?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, what happened when she walked away?" And she didn't remember. And I said, "Well, remember that you were screaming at her. And now you're screaming again. And is that working?" And she shook her head. And I said, "Let's take a deep breath together." And we did that. And she sat on my lap. And I said, "What do you think we could do in order to connect with mom again?" And she had no idea. And I said, "Well, we could try this. How would you feel if somebody were screaming at you and that made you feel upset and you needed to walk away?" And she said, "I would feel bad. And what would help you to repair?" And she said, "Well, you could draw me a picture, or you could give me a hug." I said,
Uh-huh.
"Or yeah, you could also apologize, couldn't you?" She says, "Yeah." And, it got us into this solution mindset, but we weren't even able to get there until after we connected.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't, know why it occurred to me to do that. But it really, really,
That's
really worked.
phenomenal. Sean, that story, if that's the only thing men take away from our conversation, it will be worth the listen because you modeled, I'll give it psychobabble words just to
Perfect.
validate, because you obviously know more than many men I speak with to refer to the prefrontal cortex and limbic system and rupture and repair, right? Those
Yeah.
are all words in psychology. But what happened? What's your daughter's name?
We call her Mo.
Mo. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll go with Mo.
Yeah.
So she was dysregulated.
Yeah.
That her limbic system was on fire.
Yeah.
So remember, all of us, we don't want to be in that state. A lot of
Right.
times we don't even know we're in that state. And I think it's really interesting. We're learning a lot from a 3-year-old today, because what you
Yeah.
did with a 3-year-old will work with a 13-year-old,
Sure will.
a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. This is wisdom. This is gold that you're giving these men to say, you turned toward her, you got down on her level, your voice was calm, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
like you're talking now.
Absolutely.
So your
Absolutely.
voice wasn't raised, you stayed calm, so your daughter was dysregulated, you stayed regulated,
Mhm.
and then you co-regulated. So the
Mhm.
only way a dysregulated child can get back on course, they have to have, hopefully, a parent who can regulate with them, because then you asked her questions so she could get out of here back into her prefrontal cortex. Beautiful.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't I wish I had that level of intentionality about it. It felt like the right thing to do at that moment. Maybe it was because you and I were going to be speaking later on in the day.
Yeah, you're like,
And I
okay,
was
I'm gonna have
channeling
a
some of the lessons I've gotten from reading your work and
That was
preparing.
phenomenal. That was
Yeah.
that well done. And I love to, I just want to highlight that when you asked her, "Do you know why mommy left?" She didn't remember. So that's what happens to a lot of
At
us,
all.
where we don't remember when we're that on fire in our brain. It floods this, and we can't put it together. So you helped walk her through alternatives. So if dads are listening, that they're saying, "How do I raise good men? How do I raise sons to be their best masculine self, which is strong and courageous and brave
Yeah.
and emotionally dialed in and emotionally engaged," is that you led with both sides of your brain together. And then she followed your lead.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things about that. So my reflex in that moment, when she was screaming and yelling, was to scream and yell back, "Stop screaming!" Right, and that was my first reflex. Another reflex I had that I had to kind of suppress was when she told me that she didn't remember what she'd done. I didn't believe her.
Ah,
It felt to me like she was acting on purpose. She was yelling on purpose to try to get a rise out of me.
ah.
And to get a rise out of her mom. She was doing all of the and she was refusing to admit that she remembered what she'd done. She knows that apologies make things better, and she wasn't acknowledging that. And it felt to me like she was lying, but she wasn't, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
And I had to get over that. I had to it often feels to me when they're getting dysregulated that they're acting intentionally, which is insane. When I'm dysregulated, I'm not acting intentionally. I don't
Right.
see how a 3-year-old is going to be acting intentionally in that moment. And
Come
yet
on.
I respond. My reflex is
Uh,
to respond as if they were acting intentionally. It's insane.
it is insane. So, in other words, the 3-word phrase perception is projection. Your perception was, she's not telling me the truth. And then that can be projected onto someone else. Whereas back to this skill, you listened.
Hmm,
You asked questions of her and you listened.
hmm.
That is part of co-regulating, right? Because you slowed down, took your, we all have presumptions that we bring into relationships and
Right.
conversations, but you were this was all how long did this whole thing take from beginning to end? More than 5
Oh,
minutes?
7 minutes.
7 minutes to make a deposit into your daughter's life,
Yeah.
into her heart space, to go, I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm loved, I'm guided, I'm held, which isn't always physical, it can be emotional,
Yeah.
to bring her where you wanted to go. And you led by example. I mean, come on.
Well, I hope I can have the presence of mind to do that more often. I often feel like I mean, I felt really good about that interaction and how it went. And I do not think I feel that way about 10% of
Okay,
the
but
interactions I
that's
have with my
fair.
kids.
That's fair. I'm in the same boat. I mean, we all are human,
Right.
but at the same time, your podcast is about investing in men. If they don't know where to go to ask for directions, you're like, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to bring
Yeah.
this to you. Let me even add another practical action step so
I
that
love it.
you can be an
Yeah.
action hero that springs off of what you just shared is you asked your daughter questions. Now,
Mm.
some men are not naturally skilled in knowing how to do that.
Hmm.
So that can add to the freeze. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm clearly going to make it worse. I'm out. But then would you have ever in a million years, or your wife would probably be brokenhearted if she knew that Mo felt she wasn't loved?
Right.
Like we as women, I would say men read lines, women read between lines. We're reading into everything and coming back to, I don't feel enough. I don't feel loved. I don't feel seen. But you never, as men, think that even would have been the message you would have given by walking away or
Yeah.
some mom walking away, but that's how it gets encoded, right? So here, I want to go back to this skill set that I found is really helpful. Do you remember I think it was grade school, I can't even remember what grade, where we learned who, what, when, where, why, how?
Yeah.
We all know that that was something we learned about how to ask a question.
Right.
So, Dad, here's what I say is take that template, you already know it, and now apply it to the key word or the last word of your daughter's sentence. So
Hmm.
when sometimes you go, I don't know what to ask next, I don't know where to lead this conversation. Let me give you an example. Because you just heard Sean say he naturally, intuitively led her through this. What do you think was going on? Why do you think mom left the room? I don't know. So I say use why the least because it's often a why I don't know. But again, she's 3, of course she doesn't know, but
Yeah.
probably if she's 13, she's not gonna know either, or 23 or 33.
Right.
But
Right.
going back to this idea of how do you ask a good question, men? Who, what, when, where, how are the ones you wanna use the most with
Mhm.
the keyword or the last sentence. So you could say, "Honey, what are you feeling right now?" Maybe just start general. She's clearly having a meltdown. What's going on? See? We're talking about using your voice. Your dog's using your voice. Okay. Is it a her or a him? A female or male
Oh, the
or a
boy. My dog is a boy, and his name is Chicken.
Okay, so chicken, he fits with your population. How do you raise men to use their voice in a way
That's
that
right.
doesn't
Yeah,
bark or
he's
bite?
thrilled to use his voice. He uses his voice a lot more than I wish he would.
Which is what a lot of dads actually say about their kids. I wish you would just shape up, not use your voice, not talk back, not interrupt me. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, fathering.
Yeah.
Expanding your capacity for all the mess. I mean, I've had to do that now that I have a big tribe that I married into 5.5 years ago. Yeah, I got married at the age of 60 for the first time.
That's
Now
amazing.
our 19th grandbaby's on the way. So Ken
Wow.
says, your house was so organized and clean before. Now things are broken, scratched. He says, yeah, kids come over and they bring communicable diseases. There's a mouthful. And they break stuff and then they expect you to pay for it. That's kind of the trifecta of parenting or grandparenting, right? So, okay, I digress. Back to this who, what, when, where, why, how. But
Yeah.
why use the least? So then when you pair that with whatever she did just say, or if it's a lot of words and you're like, I have no idea where to go with this, go with the last word because there's no right or wrong way to do this.
Right.
So say that you pick up your 7th grade daughter from school and you go, how was your day? And she's like, she had a bad day. So she's
Yeah.
like, fine. You're like, oh, okay. So you men often are like, okay, I want to make my women happy. I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to get my head bit off. What do I say next?
Yeah.
And so you say, what about your day was fine? How was it fine? Where was it fine? There's no right or wrong. You're like, oh, I got a tool in my toolkit, my fathering toolbox. I can pair the word with what she just said. Then maybe she goes, well, choir was good today.
Hmm.
What about choir was good today? Then knows you heard her
Yeah.
because you could even say the same words back.
Right.
It was hard in choir today. You don't even have to do it. It has an implied who, what, when. So you keep the conversation going, but then you may get home, say that you stopped with fine, and maybe her mom goes, oh, how was her day? And you go, fine. On Venus, that's a non-answer answer.
Mm.
Men say, if you wanted to tell me more, you'd tell me more. Over here on our planet, we're like, if you wanted to know more, you would have asked me more.
Yeah.
So sometimes
Yeah.
those are a little bit of bait and switch. We're like, if you cared, you'll stay with me and help me talk this out, figure it out by talking. So that's a really practical way, men. If asking questions and drawing out your daughter or your son isn't your natural gift, think who, what, when, where, how, keyword or last word. And I'm going to give you one more for your toolbox, men. It's 2 words. You're going to love this. I've had men go, that works for me. I like it too. Men just say, get to the point already. Tell me how to fix it. Get to the point already. Okay, here it is. I'm wondering.
Okay.
Like I'm wondering what's going on. I'm wondering what had you scream today, Mo.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. I once had a dad in the ABBA project who his 17-year-old daughter, Megan, he had 4 boys and she was the youngest, and she's senior in high school, skipping school, rebelling. And he goes, she either bites my head off
Yeah.
and gets mad at me, or the wall goes up and she won't talk to me, hence the drawbridge. And so I'm like, we all have them. As women, I have a men go, yep, we know when it's the drawbridge is up.
Yeah.
So anyway, over here, this guy goes, I can't get any response. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But apparently everything I say makes her mad or reactive. So I said, try putting I'm wondering in front of the exact same question. This guy goes, well, Doc, I got nothing to lose. I might as well do it. He goes home. No lie. True story. I'm still in touch with Megan, who's now a mom to 3 boys, and Dad Andy. But he went home and he said, hey, Megan, I'm wondering, why didn't you go to school today? Same exact question. And she goes, oh, actually, I did go to school. We had an early release, and that's why I'm home. And he was like, what just happened?
Wow.
Like, your tone changed. I guarantee it. If women feel like you're blasting them with an inquisition,
Sure.
you think you're saying it in a softer way, but that's that heart connection. It's softening your tone and being mindful of that. Maybe your boy responds to going, come on, man, come on, get up. It's time to go. And
I think it's because as men, we feel like the goal is to get the info, right? But that's not the goal. The goal is actually to open the drawbridge.
Come on.
So if I ask a question in a way that doesn't open the drawbridge, then that actually doesn't even if she answered the question, you wouldn't have accomplished the goal.
Yeah, and if like many of the men I've walked with say, okay, I know I'm not doing it right. Like, I know the drawbridge is up.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea what to do for her to lower it because I can't pry it open.
Right. Yeah, I feel like mine's being lowered and she's not lowering hers.
Yeah. So then you feel so stuck. And that's what I love about equipping men to be the dad, the hero they want to be, and have more tools in their fathering toolbox of, oh, I can ask questions with who, what, when, where, how, what, some why. Oh, I can put I'm wondering in front of a sentence. Let me give you another one, man. I love practical.
You're just dropping bombs, Dr. Michelle. I love it.
Okay. Do you have a dry erase marker?
I
Most probably do somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you have sticky notes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Most have these sitting around their office, or if not, your drawer or somebody else's. These are a game changer for women. You can do this with your daughter. You can do this with your son. You can do this with your wife, ex-wife, partner, anybody. And I say ex-wife. I know that's a little bit like what? But that woman also probably has wounds. Some of them maybe from you.
Sure.
This is a way you can be a proactive dad. So for us as women, mirrors are not usually our best friend. Just saying. I've had an eating disorder. I did my doctoral dissertation on eating disorders. I've taught grad students on eating disorders. I speak at conferences on eating disorder. This is it's my lane, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if you men would hear what the women in your life say in their head, and it switches, it may be around 9 or 10 is where it starts to shift. I'm sure Mo loves looking at herself in the mirror and making faces.
Yeah, you're right. She does.
And I wish they could all stay there where the mirror's their friend. But something happens along the way where the mirror is almost talking with saying every flaw. I mean, think of Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Who said that? Do you remember?
The witch.
the stepmom, the wicked witch. She's the woman with the power who's
Yeah.
asking an inanimate object to tell her whether she's beautiful. Women are still doing that every day.
Yeah.
Inanimate objects, the mirror, the
Yeah.
scale, the size. By and large, men are like, whatever. Oh, I'm good. Hey, look at that. In the mirror. It's
Yeah, it's sort of the
brutal.
opposite. We look at the mirror and we see the tiny little muscle, or that's the thing that is just slightly. Oh yeah, my abs look a little bit better today, and we're like, yeah.
Come
But you guys,
on.
it's like you see just your flaws.
Yeah, we just see the flaws. You're going, yeah. Oh, I can see some work, my working out showing.
Yeah.
So for a dad, here's another practical thing for your fathering toolbox. To be proactive is the power of your writing on her mirrors in your handwriting or on a sticky note with your handwriting. See, it stands out from technology. I promise you, I can tell you story after story of women, young girls especially, who save them. Like one dad, all he
Wow.
wrote was to his daughter Maggie, "Have a good day." It wasn't even, "I love you, I'm glad to be your dad, I'm proud of you, I'm praying for you."
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't even that. It
Yeah.
was, "Have a good day."
Yeah.
When I went over to their house, she had taken it off the bathroom mirror and put it next to her bedroom door on the wall so she would see it when she left.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? This is a power tool
Yeah.
to put in your toolbox that if your daughter's going through a hard time or your wife, women love this too, write on the mirror. Put smiley faces and hearts and love you. I can't believe I get to be your dad or your husband or the dad to our son or daughter.
Mhm.
You can't water the soil of her heart enough with your words.
Yeah.
And yet we all say things we regret, but this is a way to counter because we know, they teach that the love bank is 5 deposits to 1 withdrawal is a really good ratio of a healthy love bank. Just like if you have more withdrawals financially than than
You're
deposits.
you're gonna run out of money eventually. Yeah.
Yep. So a way to just be mindful of a deposit in her life and her heart and your sons as well, need your words. They need life breathing words in order to internalize your view of them and become the young man or young woman you want them to be. Is you have so much power, men, to shape how your children see themselves. And I think men don't hear that message enough
Yeah.
that you're told more what you're doing wrong or you're getting corrected. And I just want to affirm you. In fact, I just reread a message from a guy named Tom this last week that he wrote me a few years ago. And I'd forgotten that we'd had this Twitter exchange. And I reread what he wrote. And he said, "I wait to the end of your podcast every time where you say, 'Go dads.'" He says, "I don't have too many people cheering me on." And he goes, "Sometimes it makes me emotional." So Sean and I are saying today, go dads.
Go dads.
Matter.
Absolutely.
Your view of your kids is being internalized. And hopefully this conversation will up their intentionality and awareness of how important every single thing they do or don't do matters.
I love that sentiment. Now, before we wrap up, I like to ask every guest this same question. So if you could distill everything that we've talked about into one guiding principle for fathers raising boys or girls, or something, maybe you try to live that yourself, or maybe you've seen this work in the men that you've worked with, what would that principle be?
Okay, welcome to Venus, where words, we have a lot. I have 2.
Sounds
I don't
good.
know if I
No,
can
that's great.
distill it to one, but
Yeah.
what I would say, some of it I just said about never underestimate the power of your influence as a father.
Hmm.
Never underestimate the impact that you have on your daughter and your son's life when you show up. The research shows that every area of your child's life is better by feeling connected to you. So really what I'm saying in that never underestimate the power is I'm talking about connection, which
Mhm.
you used that word earlier about connecting with Mo. And that word connection is everything. It'll override when you say it wrong or do it wrong or mess up or cause hurt, make amends. But it's the heart connection. When you show up every area of your kid's life, I'll say when you show up in your best way too, right?
Yeah.
Not perfect way, but your
Yeah.
best self. Is just never underestimate the power of your presence. And the flip side of that also, this isn't even number 2, but is that it's never too late to rebuild the bridge to your daughter's or your son's heart.
Yeah.
You may have been given a message even by them, I don't ever want you in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, yes, your presence matters. I would say, Sean, probably 75% of the emails I get from dads are for estrangement.
Wow.
So a dad may be listening going, I hear you. She won't talk to me. He won't talk to me. He's cut me out of my life, their
Right.
life. And I'm saying, this is I told you, a Venusian way of is saying what you want me to say. Because I got to give dads practical action steps, not just theory.
Yeah.
So dad, if you're estranged, where you say, I want to show up, but I'm being blocked, go get a journal that looks like the style of your son or your daughter and begin to put entries in it with a date. It's like a time capsule so that when the time comes, maybe years down the road, that the door's opened again, the drawbridge goes down, you have a time capsule to say, here's the date you were never far from my heart. My heart was open, but I had to honor your no. That's a way, Dad, that you can show up and be present in the present, even if you're cut off from them, right? Dreams you have for them, wishes you have for them, memories you have of them. So that's kind of part 1. What I distill everything down to is never underestimate the power of your presence. And if you can't be present, that's a way to keep hope alive for you. The second part of my answer, that's what to do. Do know how important you are. This is a don't do.
Okay.
Drop your anger. When you are living in an angry place, again, that's your own stuff, 8, 9, 10. But here's the thing to know is that, Dad, your anger will do more to destroy your kids' spirit, their ambition, their heart. They'll internalize of you that they're not worthy. If you had a dad that was angry, men, you know what I'm talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
And you don't want to repeat that. You get to change it in your generation. And 2 years ago, I had a interview with a guy. Men in the Arena is the name of that men's organization. And he took a 47-second clip where all I said was, men, drop your anger. Your anger will do more to make her stop believing in herself and give up and stop trying and believe that she's not worthy by just an angry response. And guess what? It went viral, 3.2 million views.
Wow.
Just from this 47-second clip where I said, men, make a commitment today with your mouth that you will never respond in anger again. You can determine that. And I had a guy I was coaching around that time that said, you know what? My whole life I've been trying to control my anger.
Yeah.
It never even dawned on me that I needed to actually drop it. Almost like divorce my anger. Like, you're not going to be allowed anymore. I might feel it, but it's not going to come out. So I'm saying, do know how important you are, men, and don't respond in anger. That's a twofold way to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter and son needs you to be.
That's fantastic. Dr. Michelle, thank you so much for reminding us that the work of fatherhood starts by facing your own stories and so that we can show up for our kids. You can learn more about her work and the Dad Whisperer podcast. And her excellent books. The links to all of those things are in the show notes. Dr. Michelle, thanks again. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Sean. It's been great to be with you. Keep up the great work as a dad.
Thank you so much. Go Dads.
Go Dads.
All right. I love it. Raising Men is produced by Phil Hernandez. This episode was edited by Ralph Tolentino.